Namaskar, good afternoon. This is Professor Y.K. Gupta in front of you, former Dean and Head of Department of Pharmacology at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. And presently I am working as a Principal Advisor, THSTI, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. And I am also President AIIMS Bhopal and President AIIMS Jammu. We have started, you may be aware that under THSTI, we started every alternate day webinar on contemporary topic on clinical trial related issues. And this is our third webinar. The first webinar was on issues related to clinical research during COVID-19, which was taken by me. And the second webinar was ethical issues on COVID-19 research, which was delivered by Dr. Nandini. And I'm happy to tell you that more than 1,500 participants across the country, they registered on the webinar 1 as well as on webinar 2, not only from India but from other part of the world also. And we invite questions from you and we will try to answer them wherever required. We consult the regulator and the policy makers and the experts so as to give you most appropriate answer. And we also expect that we give you a very timely reply. Science is fast changing and it evolves every day. And particularly on the contemporary issue like this, it changes very fast. We therefore seek your opinion, your input, which will help us in drafting the paper draft, which will be submitted to the regulator and to the Government of India so that appropriate policy changes or the regulatory changes can be made. You will recall that last time we discussed what are the challenges in COVID-19 time in three possibilities. One, we decided that what are the challenges in new clinical trial. And I told you that the new clinical trial are almost standstill because of the logistics, because of the no new enrollment is almost not taking place. We also talked about what are the issues, what are the problems of ongoing clinical trials because of the issues of the coming to the site, investigation, missing data, so on and so forth. And there was a lot of issues in clinical trial of COVID-19. What should be the endpoint? How the patient will be getting compassionate drug, off-label drug, what are the rules and what are the regulations. And I strongly feel that the normals which we are going to set today or tomorrow's normal will force us to think in a out-of-box manner. And that is what the topic of decentralized compassionate use, remote trial, and use of artificial intelligence. This is what we discussed last time. We touched upon this. And today, I would be talking more about the questions which we have gathered about the compassionate use and also about the off-label use. What are the rules, regulation, what does it mean? So that is what we are going to talk today. Now, if you just see that this is the coronavirus, and this coronavirus is a lot of spikes are there, and these spikes you can see right. They are the antigenic protein. There are many spikes, and many spikes means there are many questions. And these many questions are also searching answers for that. And that is what we are looking for. Not all, so every day corona is a mystery. What is compassionate use of medicine? That is what we will talk about today. And compassionate use of medicine is primarily the, when you say, is also called as compassionate use. It is also referred as expanded use, is also sometimes referred as pre-approval access of investigational medicine. And the objective is that compassionate use means when the patient is not able to get a drug for which which is for his survival, a drug which is not approved anywhere in the world, or the drug which is in experimental stage yet, and the patient is likely to get benefit, and that is called as a compassionate use. That is also called as an expanded use. It is also called as a pre-approved access, and these are the drugs which are very commonly used these days as far as the COVID virus is concerned. And you see, the compassionate use is also referred, has been in the Helsinki Declaration, which says, in the treatment of a condition where proven intervention do not exist, like COVID, like H1N1 at one time, like Gaucher's disease, or other known interventions have been ineffective, the physician, after seeking expert advice, that's what they have to do, consult, with informed consent, loaded statement, with informed consent from the patient or the legally authorized representative, it has to be with consent, may use a drug which is unproven, where is not approved for any indication, if in the physician's judgment it offers hope of saving life. You must remember this last statement. If in physician's judgment it offers hope of saving life. The meaning thereby, it is offering hope, but it does not guarantee. And the judgment of physician is very critical here. Now, if you just see that the potential benefit of the medicine here, or investigational medicine, in rare disease conditions, serious or life-threatening diseases, where patient has exhausted approved treatment, there are two options. One is either he participate in the clinical trial and may get an access of investigational medicine. Most of the time, or many times, this is not possible because either the patient is very far or he has inclusion-exclusion criteria does not allow him, and then it is patient, therefore patient is not eligible. Now, if the patient is not eligible, then what is called as an access to compassionate ground, and that is what we are talking today. Now, this is the intent in clinical trial, and the intent in compassionate use is different. In clinical trial, the primary intent is the clinical research, where in compassionate use, it is the treatment. When you say clinical research, it's primarily the protocol-driven, objective, and the endpoints are decided, whereas the compassionate use, it is the treatment which is to be. But in treatment also, people are looking for protocol-based treatment. Now, This is when you are looking for a drug which is required in emergency situation. And that's why compassionate use is, because these are the life-saving drug. There is no drug available. And in US, this is approved as fast as 4 days, 5 days. And you can see the example here of a drug remdesivir, which is now an upcoming drug for corona. In Greece, Netherlands, and Romania, these are the countries which suffered from early COVID infection, and they applied to European Medical Agency (EMA). On 26th March, they sought the opinion of the Agency for Compassionate Use. The EMA experts, or what you can say rapporteurs, they ask question, they frame question on just in 5 days, 4 or 5 days on 31st March. An extraordinary meeting was called on just the next day, means 1st and 2nd April, and the compassionate use was approved in adult subjects with corona, and of course with a specific indication that this drug will be used for those which are on the ventilator, serious critically ill patient. And that is, you can see the fast speed, and that is what the compassionate use is. You may be also getting to know again and again the off-label use of the drugs. Half of the drugs which are being tried in corona are the off-label drug. What is off-label drug? I think all of us know very well, is the prescribing pharmaceutical for an unapproved indication. It has been approved for maybe antihypertensive, but now it has been positioned as corona. It has been approved as antimicrobial agent. Now it is being approved for corona. It has been approved for anti-HIV. Now it is being positioned as anti-corona. It has been approved for immune stimulating mechanism. Now it is being for repurposed for that. And that is what the new off-label use. And that is called as the unapproved indication. The dose is not also approved. Maybe high dose of vitamin C, or maybe the dosage form. So this is the off-label indication. Now, the difference between the off-label use of drug and the compassionate use of drug is slightly different. The common interpretation of these when person is using off-label drug or compassionate use of drug, if the patient dies, then people think that this died because of the disease. If the patient survived, then the people may think the common interpretation is that they have died because of the given drug. This is not true. This is not true. There may be that the patient may die because of the drug, not because of the disease, and the patient may be recovering because of the drug. So both. So one has to be very, very rational in assessment of the off-label use, compassionate use drug effect. It should not be biased. Now there are several drugs. This has been the question which has come again and again. There are several drugs being investigated for COVID-19, which we think are the front-runner drug. And it is a very difficult question because I can't say that this is the front-runner. I can't say that this is the drug which is the last one, because as I said last time, it is the clinical trial which will ultimately give the final verdict. But if you just see that what are the drugs which are available now, which are common, you see. Now this is the list which we have been talking again and again. Is the chloroquine, anti-malarial drug. Once upon a time most common, then it became almost not used because of the resistance. Hydroxychloroquine, anti-malarial drug, but now primarily used as a drug for disease modifying agent for rheumatoid arthritis and for other autoimmune disorders. Maybe for years the safety is reasonably well established, azithromycin, macrolide antimicrobial agent, lopinavir, ritonavir, favipiravir, and importantly, remdesivir. The drug vibavirine and also interferon. The convalescent plasma is now the very much talked about. The plasma or the antibody in the plasma of a patient which is recovered after corona infection is infused into a critically ill patient, and it is hoped that the antigen, it will bind to the antigen and it will inactivate, it will neutralize the antigen, and it will convert the acute and the severe critically ill patient into a responding patient, and that is what the lot of trials are going on. Corticosteroids are being used now, though there are difference of opinion. WHO said, has given a warning that corticosteroids are not good, but at the same time, a lot of physicians or a lot of people find that the corticosteroids are useful, particularly in severe cases. Everything where it is being given has to be given with caution, with judicious use. And majority of these things, if you see, they are based on in vitro antiviral property, or may have anti-inflammatory activity, or they may be having simultaneously an immune boosting mechanism. So three primarily. And if you just see the last which I have written, very small but which form the major part of this array, is so many. I think you name any group of drug and you may find that they have been investigated or being tried in clinical trial against corona. Now, very interesting is that if in vitro activity of any drug automatically translated into clinical activity, काश ऐसा होता, the drugs of all kind of infectious disease would be available. But मगर ये हो ना सका. That means all drugs which are showing in vitro activity, it's very few that they also find in vivo efficacy, in human efficacy, the safety, and then that is why lot many drugs are being investigated in vitro. They fail in vivo, and then they do not show safety and efficacy in human being. Now, the important issue which we have been talking about and which everybody is worried about, what has been the impact of COVID-19 on ongoing clinical trial in India. And that is what something very critical. And the issue is right, and we discussed something last time also. The issue is starting from the inventory of the drug, difficulty in getting the drug at the site, to the management of the patient. Patient has to visit at a stipulated day and time, which he is not able to come because of the transportation, because of the lockdown, because the patient has an hesitation, apprehension that if he goes to hospital, which is rightly so, may get infection. The investigations which are supposed to be done at a particular time on a particular reason is not being done, and this leads to missing data. And also breaking in the chain, and that has been the major difference. And now, how to do about it? People are looking for whether to stop the trial or to pause the trial or to change the protocol or to use artificial intelligence to extrapolate whatever it is. It is also a very big challenge for the regulator to derive the information which is from the inadequate data or incomplete data, which does not support 100% safety assessment. But at the same time, You cannot allow the patient to go into risk because this is not complete trial, but the significant amount of the effort has already gone in. So these are the challenges of the ongoing trial. Now, the other thing is that if you just see that many medicines which are under clinical trial are under patent. I think this is something I would have been thinking about, and many people have raised this issue, and my colleague Apurva has and Vandana have collected this different form. People have asked it. Many medicines are under clinical trial under patent because the patent is still holds by a particular company. If these medicines are found to be effective, maybe you can talk of any of the antiretroviral or maybe remdesivir, and approved by the regulator in the country, how can we make them available at an affordable price, particularly in India, where 80% of the drug cost is out of pocket expenses? I have very difficult to find the answer. But yes, this is true. And few important drugs which are showing promise in clinical trials, for example, remdesivir. Remdesivir is a drug which was Gilead Science, which has started this drug. And once the drug is approved, it is showing promise, but once the drug is approved, the drug is likely to be expensive. And the second thing is the Gilead has also mentioned that they will have a limited capacity. Even they have large capacity, will not be able to meet the entire requirement of the globe. What to talk of India? And therefore, the drug price will be governed by the company. I am not talking of Gilead, but this is what happens. Fortunately, Gilead Sciences has agreed to give technology and licensing to 4 Indian generic pharmaceutical companies. That means this will be licensed to 4 companies, and these 4 companies will be able to fix up the price as per their mechanism. And this is the non-exclusive license. An agreement is a non-exclusive. So that also is a very positive thing. For example, the Cipla is one company, and which is a very good quality generic company. Jubilant Life Sciences is another one. The Hetero Lab is one of the major drug manufacturer of API and Mylan. And they can scale up the production, and they can set up the prices of their own. Now, this is something very important, and the other issue is that once this is price is fixed by the industry, it may be really low, it may be affordable, but even it may not be affordable. The question which has been asked again and again, and which has been targeted to me, is: you are vice chairman of National List of Essential Medicine, which is popularly known as NLEM, of which chairman is Secretary DHR Prof. Balram Bhargav, and which is of Government of India Ministry of Health. What option Government of India has to keep the price affordable? Government of India has different mechanism, and one of the mechanism is Department of Pharmaceuticals has National Pharma Pricing Authority, which is called as NPPA, which has a major teeth in it. And this NPPA can decide the price of a drug under para 19. And they can control the price under essential regulation. The second option could be that the drug can be classified as, or drug can be included by the recommendation of the experts as an essential, and we include this into national list of essential medicine. Though national list of essential medicine is not mandated for the price fixation, but by the inherent court order, this becomes price cap. So that is another mechanism. The third mechanism which the government of India has utilized in past is Department of Pharmaceuticals and Government of India can rescind the patent by compulsory licensing, and that is according to the Indian Patent Act 1970, and that we all know that one of the anti-cancer drug, the prices of which was reduced to almost 900 times, and that is usually country does not prefer, because that is people say that suffocates the innovation. But if that is so important, so critical for the country's population, then that is another option. The issue, again, the one of the issue which is considered is what are the safety concerns when these compassionate use drug, means which were not approved or which are repurposed. That means this drug has not been fully studied, not full clinical trial. That is called as a repurposed drug. That means there is a limited safety, are approved and given to the patient. Now, this is something very, very, very tricky. You are taking a calculated risk in the interest of calculated or expected benefit. The risk is that we have no full idea of the possible side effect. The basic premises here of compassionate use of the drug or approved drug in emergency situation, or the drug which is in the fast track approval, is that you need the drug immediately. You need the drug in emergency. And there is a best assessment of benefit. You have done the assessment that the benefit outweighs the possible risk. Then only you do that. And this assessment can go wrong sometimes. But this is the assessment. And it is well understood that the full risk potential is not yet known. Be very clear about it. And that is why, under these circumstances, what is the most critical thing is that the drug is given under strict supervision. And that's why you may know the bedaquiline has to be given by the physicians. All the drugs, whether remdesivir or all those drugs, have to be given under supervision so that unexpected side effects can be checked. Informed consent. The patient who is receiving it must consent that this drug is not fully evaluated for the benefit and the risk assessment, yet we feel that this may likely to be benefit, and therefore he has to consent for it. Be watchful for adverse drug reaction, expected or unexpected, and therefore strong pharmacovigilance is must. Unfortunately, India has a strong PVPI, Pharmacovigilance Program of India, which has over nearly 250 centers across the country, medical colleges, rather 300 including corporate hospitals and other centers. And there is also toll-free number. So now they have all been instructed through PVPI, of which I happen to be the National Scientific Coordinator, that the focused pharmacovigilance, collecting adverse drug reaction from hydroxychloroquine, from chloroquine, from any drug which has been repurposed or any drug which is being repositioned, and any ADR to be reported along with the causality assessment. And therefore, it is important now that not only the physicians should understand the reporting of adverse drug reaction, they have to be trained in causality assessment. And therefore, the pharmacovigilance is a new, very upcoming discipline which is coming up. It is also important. It is also important that in such cases, it is mandated by law that periodic safety update report (PSUR) is done regularly at 6 months, and this is done for other purpose also. But here, important thing is that monthly expedited safety report is asked for every month, and in US FDA it is considered that every Monday should be the beginning date, and these reports should be stratified also. Stratified means that you stratify as a confirmed case COVID or it is unconfirmed case COVID, and therefore you put them into different baskets. It is a solicited adverse drug reaction, means we have given a checklist, or it is unsolicited. All adverse events, whether a serious adverse event, is a non-serious adverse event, is expected or it is unexpected, it is serious. So all type of adverse drug reaction have to be reported. Many times in pharmacovigilance we don't report the expected, but here every side effect has to be religiously reported. Now, the question has been asked that remdesivir, has it been established safety for in clinical trial in geriatric patient of 65 years, or has it been assessed for patient in renal or hepatic compromised? The answer is not yet. Not yet. And the irony is that the majority of the mortality, 60% of the mortality to more, happens in patients who have one or more comorbidity. That is either, if I consider comorbidity also age, old age, more than 65 years, diabetes, immunocompromised, chronic renal disease, hepatic impairment, etc. And these patients, perhaps because of the immune suppression, there is a more possibility of death. And in these patients, again, remdesivir's safety is not yet established. And that's why WHO has also given an indication that before giving remdesivir, you do the investigation of the kidney function test and see very closely what is happening. Now, that is poor renal function, poor hepatic function. Extreme caution has to be taken. So this is very important. There is also a question, as a social question, is a very vital question, particularly in Indian scenario where the people are not so rich, out-of-pocket expenses, that compassionate use drugs, that means the drug where the patient is not able to enter into clinical trial, where the drug has not been approved for any indication, and you are giving compassionate use in spite of patient's consent, what should be the amount patient should pay? Globally, there is no uniform law. But generally, the pharmaceutical industry, which is manufacturing this drug, cannot be forced to make this drug free. But majority of the opinion is that the industry, such company, should make this drug available at the cost of production. maybe they can charge cost of transportation. But in India, it is very difficult that also, because cost of production, the industry, what the cost of production they will declare and how the cost of production is calculated and whether that cost of production will also be affordable or not. So we in India, we had a 3 brainstorming session with the Indian Council of Medical Research, Indian and All India Institute of Medical Sciences, DCGI, all the stakeholders of the disease stakeholders, we had a meeting, and I convened that the general consensus evolved is that in Indian scenario, the patient must not pay in compassionate use. Who will pay? Yet to be decided. Whether it is NGO, whether it is the government, but that is what the consensus and that is what the regulation will be. Now, the another important issue, we have been talking a lot as far as the clinical trials are concerned, as far as the drugs for Ayush, as far as the drugs for COVID-19 is concerned. Our country is very rich heritage of Ayurveda, Yoga, Siddha, Unani, Tibetan. I am a great fan of Ayush, and I practice Ayush medicine. I do not practice, but I consume. So, what has been the impact? What has been the role? I would say that Ayush medicine has a tremendous impact on immune system, and by enhancing immunity, they treat holistically the prepare body to fight it better, to have a prophylactic role, and also may reduce the intensity, severity of the disease. And that is why the Ministry of Ayush has identified few first critical or most important drugs. Maybe ashwagandha is one, the guduchi is another one, the glycyrrhiza is another one, and a formulation which they developed for some time back for immune stimulation. Now, a clinical trial, multi-centric clinical trial with CSIR and under technical support with Indian Council of Medical Research is being done and being evaluated. And we hope that they will be beneficial, they will be good, and they will be cheap, affordable, and to fight not only corona infection, but maybe the infection of other viruses as well. And the clinical trial is the correct answer. So that is the so that is the drug is concerned. Now, the many times this is also a question which has been, I think, a lot of people have asked and they have compiled. My colleagues have compiled. What is the Government of India policy in compassionate use of medicine? Now, this is, I would say, this is a much talked about. Now, every physician, every person who is dealing with corona is aware of what compassionate use is. I don't think that about a year back people were aware of what compassionate use means, except those who participated in our three series of brainstorming, because we were trying to formulate the guidelines and the regulation. Before we could do that, the episode of this happened, and therefore it is now the critical need of the country that we frame the policy, we freeze the regulation in order that the drugs which are likely to be beneficial are introduced into the patient's benefit as fast as possible. It's very critical that compassionate use drug now we are giving for patient benefit, but it should soon, as early as possible, soon should be converted into a proper evidence-based, objective-based trial, and then it should be converted into a proper release of the drug. Yeah, this is something very. Yesterday, an article, an interview of mine appeared in Economic Times, and I defended the Indian Council of Medical Research stand on prophylactic use of hydroxychloroquine. And you will say that is it absolutely safe from side effect? I would say that hydroxychloroquine was given as a prophylactic based on the in vitro study, based on few studies, and also the risk-benefit assessment. And the risk-benefit assessment tilts towards the benefit, and therefore we recommended it. The task force, the Indian Council of Medical Research, Government of India recommended, and which extended its use to front runner, the workforce, maybe police, like that. It is absolutely not correct for anybody to think that any drug whatsoever maybe is 100% safe. It will have side effects. And we know that all chloroquine may have a QT prolongation, but very rare, indicating thereby that the patient of cardiac ailment must not take it. Patient who are taking it, old elderly people, must have a ECG, and patient must not take it just like a churan ki goli or just like panacea of everything, must consult doctor. It happened that everybody started taking in the beginning when it was, and therefore the drug regulation has been changed. Now it is H1 schedule. That means it can be available only by the prescription of a doctor, and the pharmacist has to keep a record of this. That is what the important thing. So that's why the pharmacovigilance, focused pharmacovigilance of hydroxychloroquine is of paramount importance. PVPI is doing that. So far, the side effect profile of the dose and the frequency of hydroxychloroquine which has been given has not given any alarming side effect profile. So that is what is status of the pharmacovigilance is concerned. Now, the compassionate use and common points of what are the commonly used endpoints of trials. I think this is something very variable. What should be the common endpoints of prophylaxis? Very difficult. What should be the common endpoints in the efficacy of the drug? Large clinical trials have used different, but usually the overall mortality is one. Reduction in the viral load, which can be assessed from the nasal swab or which can be assessed by the oropharyngeal swab, that is one. The time of nasopharyngeal swab turning negative, how much time it takes, whether it's 5 days, 7 days, or 3 days, or 4 days, even 4 days, 2 days reduction in the time has been found to be significant. Time to complete recovery of symptoms, whether it is fever, cough, breathing difficulty, or even breathe difficulty in the smell sensation, or whatever is implicated because of COVID virus. Duration of hospital stay, which is an important issue because the hospitals are completely full. And time for non-invasive ventilatory support has been also with this. Whether this has been controversial also, but non-invasive ventilatory support, if this can reduce the one, that's the important thing. And others also, people are looking biomarkers and the cytokine profile, whether that can be used as an endpoint. But these are the surrogate endpoints, so different things. So these are basically the endless questions which we see and which every day come up. And these are the questions which my team, Apurva, Mathur, and Vandana, they both have compiled and which we try to answer. And hopefully we have covered all the most of the questions which we gathered from different our registered partners. I would request my colleague Apurva, if any new questions have come during this time of 1 hour or so, and if there are so, then can you, Apurva, ask if there is any question? Maybe I can attempt. May not be.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So actually, quite a few questions have come in during this session.
I was seeing the hectic movement of it, but I was not able to concentrate on that. So you have done it. Good job.
Yes, so we have tried to compile some of them. One of the questions that is coming in is that is it necessary to have a face-to-face ethics committee meeting? If no, do we need to modify the SOP?
Ethics committee, I think Dr. Nandini covered last time, but to me, face-to-face meeting of ethics committee in these days is very difficult, not possible. And therefore, when the entire system is changing, though regulation says that you have to have a face-to-face meeting, but the we have, because I am chairing a couple of ethics committee, we have taken this viewpoint and we have discussed unofficially to the regulator also. I think that the face-to-face meeting is not mandatory. The web-based meeting of ethics committee is possible, but it is important that each ethics committee must justify why they are doing face-to-face meeting or not doing face-to-face meeting. What is the urgency? And also put this in their standard operating procedures. I would recommend that.
Sir, another question that is being asked is that what is the status of revision of Indian GCP by CDSA?
Uh, Sometimes the train starts with two engines to reach the destination before time. Sometimes the train gets derailed. Sometimes there are new passengers get in, and sometimes there is different issues. And we started the revision of GCP almost 1.5 years back. We had n number of meetings, consultation meetings, and revision after revision. It is almost in a final stage. It has almost what you say the printing stage. Just legal vetting is required. But then sometime the NDCT rule changed, so we have to change it. Sometimes now Corona has come up, so we have to modify it. But I am sure the clinical GCP guidelines will be soon released, and I will take it personally to DCGI. Dr. Somani was keen that he himself taking personal interest, and we will be able to do it by hopefully by this month end. I'm sure. I'm optimistic.
So, in context of today's webinar, we can continue this question and ask, do we need to define the compassionate use, etc., in GCP guidelines?
Yes, yes, certainly. Because you see, compassionate use was, we did not, honestly, we did not deliberate at length. We did make a passing reference in our GCP, revised GCP document, but we did not mention in detail about what should be the policy, what should be the rules, what should be the periodic uh, requirement of safety, who will pay for compensation if required, whether this data can be used for clinical trial data for approval of the drug, whether this can be used as a real life evidence, etc., and so on. But this is the time when we must deliberate on this, and we are planning to have that. We did 3 workshops. We will take white paper of that, and we will incorporate this into our new GCP guidelines. Certainly.
One very popular question that I think everybody wants to ask is, do you think that the country will be able to make affordable vaccine? If so, by whom and by when?
Vaccine is a wishful thinking, and I am sure that our wish will be fulfilled very soon by our scientists. And I am particularly hopeful because our country is known as a hub of vaccine. Largest component of vaccine is supplied by India, and therefore competence is available, infrastructure is available, and approximately 100 vaccine candidates are being investigated globally, of which 10 vaccines are being clinically evaluated. And I am very happy that India is now at least 4 or 5 major organizations, industry are in active state. And one is the Indian Council of Medical Research has joined hands or collaboration with the Bharat Biotech vaccine, and Serum Institute of India has collaboration with the University of Oxford, AstraZeneca, and it is expected that they will give their vaccine by October 2020. I am sure that they will be able to keep up the time limit. Minvax is another company which has recently submitted its proposal and going ahead very aggressively with Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. The Cadila is also working on a DNA vaccine. Indian Immunologicals, that is also working with University of Australia. THSTI is giving the entire support of its institute for these things. And I'm sure that when these all multiple organizations are working towards vaccine development, BIREC, which is a body of Department of Biotechnology, CSIR, Department of Science and Technology, all giving good funding and technical support for vaccine development. So I'm sure that we will see as early as possible the vaccine. In vaccine, certain critical stages have to be completed. So we cannot say that vaccine will be available just next 1 month or 2 months. We cannot fast track certain critical steps.
So, one last question that we have compiled for today is, how ethical and legal are vaccine trials in controlled human infection model, commonly known as CHIM?
Very difficult question to answer, but I will try to answer something about it. Controlled human infection model, which is commonly abbreviated or known as CHIM, has been there for many years, and there is an institute in Oxford and a couple of other places of CHIM studies. What they do, give an infection which is controlled, which is standardized, which is very small, which can be treated immediately, and then once this infection develops, you test the vaccine. This is done only in some situation where this is mandatory, where there is no alternate method is available. Because if you do test vaccine in a population which the infection occurs, it will have to be in a large number of population, because there is different varying degree of immunity and it will take time. The CHIM study has an advantage that this can test it as a model, but there is a big but. That is, there are a lot of ethical issues involved, and therefore informed consent is a major issue. the engagement of the public, the media, and the NGOs, the all people concerned of the society have to basically vote for it, agree for it, and therefore public awareness, public education is important. Because even if whatever safety, caution, precaution you are doing, whatever controlled infection you are doing, there is a limited risk. Science is taking about a risk, and once you take risk in the anticipation of larger benefit to the society, I would consider this is rational, beneficial to the society. In India, there have been workshops, there have been brainstorming sessions, whether and how we should get ourselves prepared, ready for CHIM studies. Certainly, it cannot be done by a less competent or an institution which is not fully equipped. So it is a very, very specialized, very expertise driven experimental or clinical trial, but it will be, I think, a good answer to develop the vaccine much faster, and much work is being done into this. I am very happy to say that THSTI is taking lead into this, and a lot of brainstorming is being done. So, any more questions?
Thank you, sir. That's all we have compiled for today.
So, thank you very much, Dr. Apurva, and thank you very much, Vandana, and thank you very much, my technical partner, Sri Balaji, and I am extremely thankful to THSTI. So, this has been our third webinar, and we will meet again after 2 weeks to have another webinar on contemporary issue, and I'm sure that you will be benefited with that. We look forward for your suggestions also about what topic you would like to listen from us, and be kind to send us your feedback on the, and be kind to send the feedback for any change in the regulation which you feel. Write down your questions. If have not been answered or have not been covered, we'll try to get those answers, and we will respond either to you through email or through our interactive website, which is going to be created soon, or maybe in our next webinar. So thank you very much. Nice being with us. Namaskar.